The first person that we're going to be hearing from today was actually our keynote speaker last year. If you didn't join us, her name is Moji Igun, and she is the founder of Blue Daisy Consulting, which is a sustainability consulting firm based in Seattle. And she does a lot of really amazing work with small businesses, like creating sustainability plans and doing zero waste audits and things like that. She also teaches really lovely workshops if you're looking to like change your mindset around sustainability and sort of relearn for yourself what zero waste might mean for your business rather than like what medium.com like tells you it needs to be. So I'm going to turn it over to Moji, and then when she's done, we'll transition into, I'll introduce the next speaker. Moji.
Thank you, Allie. We just had a really great conversation in our like breakout room, and it just reminds me how much I love this space. This space that you've curated is just amazing. So my name's Moji. I'm in Seattle. I'm a speaker, a writer, a consultant, and my topic that I want to talk about today is about using our imaginations to kind of help us create the futures we want to create. So kind of Drea gave the perfect lead in to what I wanted to talk about today. And so I want to give a little bit of context about like the work that I do and how that leads into how I kind of think about the future. So I'm gonna do a little past, present, future activity here. But so my job is to help businesses get closer to zero waste, because I daydream about a world where we work with our natural resources and materials and treat each other with as much care as possible. I think that kind of like the deepest foundational issue with sustainability is that we just don't have the capacity or the intention around caring for people and things and planet. So it's really all for me, it's just about fostering a culture of care and thoughtfulness and intention. And so zero waste for me started officially in about 2015 or so, when I had a full-time job in commercial construction, and I just had a lot of time and disposable income on my hands. And I found the zero waste movement on Instagram, where everyone was like squeezing their trash into mason jars, and it was just a whole like hype trend. And I found it, and something clicked in my brain that was like, there's something more to this. Like, it's definitely this really cool Instagram community where people are doing this very similar thing of trying to be conscious about the way that we move in the world. But there's also this deeper undercurrent of just rethinking the way that we interact with the world. Noticing that I was running into all of these roadblocks along the way of not just like not having the, sorry, my internet is coming up as unstable. So if you can't hear me, apologies. But I was running into all of these roadblocks along the way that was frustrating me, and that I was wondering, like, I'm bending over backwards to do all of these things, but not everyone has the time or the capacity or the resources to do all of this. And so what is the point of zero waste or trying to live sustainably when it's not really accessible or possible for a lot of people? And so that got me shifting towards a more systems approach to sustainability and trying to figure out how can we build systems and structures that allow us to be zero waste, as opposed to us as individual people or us as individual companies trying to achieve zero waste. So it's more of a both and approach. And so with all of that kind of personal experience in trying to achieve this kind of huge goal of zero waste, or whatever that means for you, but just sustainable living, I realized that what got me, or what helped me get from point A to point B, and get over the overwhelm of like the hugeness of that goal, is just kind of tapping into my imagination and allowing myself to daydream about what does that ideal future look like. And I think that's important because we often talk about kind of the negative sides or the negative consequences of climate change, and it can kind of fill us with this anxiety and dread and fear of what we're trying to avoid, of carbon emissions, pollution. There's so many things that can go on and on about that will just raise our cortisol levels. And that is real and true. But there's also a side of sustainability that allows us space to cultivate joy and be creative and have fun with this. And so I try not to ignore the negative side, but instead just kind of shift my energy to balance both the negative and the positive, which is where my daydreaming practice kind of comes in. So what I wanted to do with the few minutes that we have left is actually to kind of daydream together here and just kind of give ourselves some space and some prompts to think about what is that direction that we're working towards, to kind of give us some guide rails of allow us to see if we're moving closer to that with the actions that we're taking. And so I have 3 prompts I just kind of want to lay on the table. And then if we have time at the end or in the discussion time, we can kind of share some thoughts around it. So I'll just start first before we even dive into that, just to like sit up straight and like take a deep breath and kind of give yourself some oxygen flow, and just, I'm going to take some deep breaths here. So and so the first prompt or thought, very much in alignment with what Drea was saying in her keynote, but at the very beginning of the pandemic, over a year and a half ago now, which is wild to think about, but a lot of people were admitting that the pause that we were experiencing, that we thought it was going to be 2 weeks and then it turned out to be much longer, but that moment that we thought we were all going to be able to pause gave us space to really reevaluate what's important to us and what we value and what we actually want to be doing with our time, or what would we do if we had 2 weeks off to just do whatever we wanted. And so I saw and heard a lot of people talking about just things that they've always wanted to do and just never had the time or made the time to do. And so with that, I want to offer the prompt of what can you do as time speeds up, as we try to continue to go back to normal. How do we resist that and think about how do we make space to slow down so that we can continue to move forward with intention? And so I'll repeat that prompt again if you want to write it down and journal on it later or think about it later, but how can you make space to slow down so that you can continue to move forward with intention? And so that's kind of where I always try to start when I think about the word sustainability, because if we're not sustainable in ourselves, what are we even doing? So if I'm burnt out and tired and stressed constantly, if I'm rushing constantly, that in itself is unsustainable and we're missing the point. And so I want to make sure that we start with ourselves, and how can we make sure that we're finding time to move our bodies, to nourish ourselves with good food, to spend time with friends and family members that we care about. Making space for all of that is like, honestly, first and foremost when I think about the word sustainability. So that's the first prompt. Second one I want to talk about is having to do with relationships. And we often think about relationships with people when we talk about kind of tending to our personal relationship, whether it's our friends, our families, our partners, our kids, whoever it may be. We talk about those relationships, but I want to think about our relationship with the natural world and how do we kind of cultivate that relationship. And so I know we're all here for sustainability in business and we all kind of are in the same wavelength in that, but just how do you make space to connect with nature, whatever that means for you? And so I want to share, for me, I used to be a huge nature phobe. I hate bugs and creepy crawlies, and I would be so stressed out by going outside and having to deal with that stuff that was very unfamiliar to me. And as I've kind of grown up and explored my relationship with nature, I've been so much more welcoming to that kind of stuff. And so that's come from spending time in my little pea patch garden where I grow food just for fun, but I found that I've like picked up random bugs and started looking at them differently. And it's evolved over time. It's very interesting to watch that happen. But all of that to say is that cultivating a relationship with the natural world can be really important, just kind of understanding how we relate to each other and how sustaining nature affects us and how we can sustain nature. It's a mutual relationship. And so whether that's gardening for you or just walking around or noticing the leaves changing right now, it's a beautiful time in the Pacific Northwest. Have the leaves started changing outside? Do you see animals or hear things outside your window and just kind of noticing that? Spending time to do that has allowed me to grow in my relationship with nature. And I just wanted to offer that as, if you don't already do that, to try that out and see how that feels for you. And then my third and final prompt is just to take all of those things that you've noticed and start to kind of construct what you would want to see either change or stay the same in your lifetime. So I'll repeat that. What would you like to change or stay the same within your lifetime? And that can be anything, that you can take that any way you'd like to take that. It could be related to, you want to see certain political or economic things change. You want to see a certain location in the world that you've never traveled to. You could see a dream job for yourself or whatever you want to see. But what is that one thing or couple of things that you want to see in your lifetime? And really get specific with yourself, because with daydreaming, you don't have to share this with anyone. You can just be truly honest with yourself. And it can be as wild and wacky and as unrealistic as you want it to be, because it's about you. It's about what you see. And so offering you some time to daydream about what do you see for yourself, as big or as small as that is, and just letting yourself kind of live in that dream space for a while. And then once you've kind of been able to give yourself space to articulate that, starting to kind of map out how can you create a mini version of that in your life. And so for me, my big daydream is that I want to see Seattle be a zero waste city in my lifetime. I want to see us have all of those systems and structures that kind of exist out there for us to be able to access and get to that zero waste goal. And so I can't possibly do that by myself or in the next year or 2 years, but I have all of these thoughts. And so when I see something like that pop up, or someone else is working on a cool project that gets us closer to that daydream, I try and figure out what my role in that can be to help either amplify it or support it or share it. Because in the end, whether or not I'm involved in it or not, or whether or not I can do it by myself or not, it's getting closer towards what I see for what I want the world to be. And so once you're able to articulate what that is, you're able to notice yourself moving closer or further away. And so just offering those 3 prompts to kind of sit with, return to if you want on like a regular basis, and just kind of marinate on and see where that takes you. And I know I just have a couple more minutes, so I'll close out. But the last thing I want to share is that something that inspires me every single day is thinking about how far things have changed, even just in the past couple of years in the pandemic, and how mindsets have shifted and how I have changed. And so whenever I kind of feel stuck in that there's so much to do, this is so big, this is such a big goal, I think about actually things can change if we're just kind of focused on it, and if we talk to each other about it and work together on it. And I know that might feel a little like woo-woo, hippy-dippy, like sure, but honestly, if you're able to get really specific about where you're trying to go, and then you kind of map out those steps and talk to people about it and get people to join you and support you, it's much more likely that you'll be able to move closer towards that in an efficient way. So with that, I'll stop talking and let the next person speak. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Moji. I love what you said. It's like rattling around in my brain. And I'm paraphrasing, like, what's your role in other people's daydreams? Like, that is such a cool thought. Like, we've seen a lot of those sort of wheels go around where it's like, what kind of helper are you? Like, what's your role in the movement? And I love that. And that's really useful. But tying it back to what we talked about earlier about scarcity mindset, like if you approach your work as being in support of other people's daydreams, like not just your own, I find that just like such a sweet idea that's really resonating with me right now. So thank you for those prompts, as well as your enthusiasm. I swear when I'm tired. I swear all the time. Let's just be honest. So next we're going to hear from, sorry about this. I swear at some point I will figure out how to do this better. We're going to hear from Kiara Daniels. She is the Business and Community Development Coordinator for Spaceworks Tacoma, but she is also running for Tacoma State Council, and she is just an amazing leader in our community and someone that I can't wait to follow what she continues to do in Tacoma. So I'm going to turn it over to Kiara Daniels.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. That was an amazing intro. And Allison, as you said, I am the Business and Community Development Coordinator at Spaceworks. And also I have my own side hustles. So I have my own side hustles that are very much businesses, and that I kind of lead at all of my work in supporting other entrepreneurs is kind of led with the hurdles and things that I've had to go through. So with that being said, I just want to talk a little bit about my work to help frame what we'll talk about, but I have a question for you. And so let me just tell you a little bit about what I've been working on, and then I'll ask the question. As the Business and Community Development Coordinator, my job is to connect businesses to resources and developers to businesses, which a lot of the times looks like space. And one of the biggest complaints that developers have when we say you need to prioritize people of color owned businesses, women owned businesses, is that, oh, well, we don't have enough. We don't have enough that are ready, and we just don't have that list. And so we kind of began that program at Spaceworks, never wanting to hear that again. So the program that I run is the Black Business Accelerator, and it's aimed at preparing Black businesses in Hilltop for capital, for space, and also for sustainability. And how we think about sustainability and how we talk about sustainability at the Chamber is focused more on longevity and is focused on place and how are you sustainable kind of within yourself, how are you sustaining your staff, and how do you sustain, what does sustainability look like in the money and kind of time perspective. But that also very much connects to climate. It connects to our environment because you have to lead with yourself in doing that work. And if you are stretched, if you don't have capacity, if you don't have the resources, that doesn't work. So my prompt or my question for y'all, maybe if I could just get 2 people to answer this, and it's a super easy question. So I think someone should be able to answer it. I think I have some solopreneurs in here or whoever, is what would you do with $50,000? Anybody? Has anybody thought about what they might do with $50,000 or maybe even $15,000?
Well, that's something I think about all the time. Like, what would I do if I had the money, and not necessarily in this current economy?
Oh, Kyla. Is it Kyla, right? Is it Kyla that's talking?
No, it's Stephanie.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I saw it beeping right. Okay, there we go. Sorry about that. Okay, sorry. Bring it on, Stephanie.
So typically my answer is buy real estate. It's always buy real estate because that's something that I can invest in and continue to invest in. And it will invest in me back and having multiple streams of income, but also being able to control that real estate in a way that helps people have homes and businesses and be able to create the world that I want.
Yes, I love that. I was going to ask you why, but you gave me the why. And it's so funny how if you ask a woman what she'll do, there's always something that comes after that involves service to somebody else. And I think that it's not funny, but it is like I think that's the kind of the sauce. That's the special part about women-owned business. Anybody else? Give me one more.
I have one that I think of, like with birth. Like I said, I'm a birth doula. If I had $50,000, I would put that all towards a fund to be able to support people that can't afford doula services, and be able to start something there that provides education in any kind of community that needs it, but just resources, birth resources for every person, for teen moms, for single parents. I'm a single parent myself, so I just think of all the people that should have support, but that it's tied to a dollar amount and most people just can't afford it. So the people that can afford it are sometimes not always necessarily the people that need it the most. So yeah, have a fund, bring lots of people, lots of other birth workers in, and I don't think it costs that much money. So I feel like 50,000 actually would do a lot.
Yes, service to others. And then I also see in the chat, produce the work of independent performing artists. I would hire people to build out my business system so I can focus on more clients and community. Oh, Allison, you're funny. I think you were in my head or something. I love to grab a new workspace. If not, probably increase my workers' pays, more printing equipment, and hire another employee. Hire an intern so that I can share what I know and expose students in unconventional career path. I love it. I love it. I love it. And really, I'm so glad that the speakers before us, that you all talked, you really framed the why of what I'm getting ready to talk about. And what I'm going to talk about is money. I'm going to talk about funding, and I'm going to talk about, earlier we heard the why. What would you do if you just had more time? What would you do? What could you do if you had more capacity? You could treat your employees better. You could do better engagement. You could have the correct clients. You could serve the environment better. There's just things that you can do, like on the sustainable side, like internally and externally, right? That you can't do when you're strapped for resources. And so I just want to talk a little bit about some of the barriers that I've seen in accessing that, and kind of how I feel like the how is often missing from some of the conversations about just some of the conversations around small business and solo business specifically, like the practical, like how do we get this thing done? So I'll just give a little bit. Okay, so you just told me what you would do with the money. And when I think about sustainability, I think about how do we sustain ourselves, right? A lot of folks here are solopreneurs, right? How do you have capacity to run your business? How do you have capacity to grow your business? How do you have capacity to have systems behind your business so that you can weather storms, and so that you can really do not just develop your product or develop your service and be creative about that, but how do you create the systems that can sustain, so that if you are not there, the business goes without you, right? And I know that that's probably a desire for many folks, is to not be there every single day, but to also have a full life and have that ability to step back and do some of the creative work to do better in business and really in life, right? And so one of the things that I say is, why is this specific to women-owned businesses, right? Why is this specific to people of color-owned business? Why does it matter that we talk about funding here, right? And one of the things that I think about is that women are typically the matriarchs of their family. So they don't just get to run a business, right? They don't just have that freedom. We've also got to take care of kids. We've also got to take care of households. We've got to take care of family members. We've got to take care of all of these things. And what I know about solopreneurs specifically is that it's really hard to ask for help, right? And it's really, and even more than it's hard to ask for help, you can't afford the help to do everything. So you've got to be the expert in accounting. You've got to be the expert in doing so many things in your business that really have nothing to do, that get you so far away from the product or the service that you're providing, that sometimes you get lost, and that immediately, that can create burnout really, really quick. So my offer to you is that when we start out with the resources and the capital that we really need to run our business, not just to create the product, but when we think about our business as a whole, when we start out with adequate resources and we can run our business not out of scarcity, but we can do it in abundance, and that has multiplying effects. So, a couple of quick thoughts, or a couple of quick just things that data that I found, is that last year only 2.3% of venture capital funding went to women-owned businesses in 2020. 2.3% out of 100%. And not that everybody here is looking for venture capital, but that tells you where there's no regulation in equity, there's no regulation in like how to do these things properly, what that means for everything else. And if 2.3% is just for women, period, what does that look like for Black-owned, Black female-owned businesses, right? Like, how do we think about that? And I think that number is like 0.02%. And that's heartbreaking, because those numbers, those trends are also in capital loans and those and the other kind of traditional funding that we think about. Another number is that women apply and receive 35%, and therefore receive 35% less capital than men. Because we're either applying for less, we're applying less often, and then we're also receiving less money, and we're receiving worse kind of structured loans, right? And that's just kind of like the stark reality. And that is for the people who are actually applying. So somebody raise your hand here if you've ever thought maybe you wanted money, but you felt like, a business loan, they never give that to me. I don't know if I'm ready for that. Somebody give me like just a little bit about your experience and just kind of like the barriers, like even before even looking at the paper. Moji, I saw your hand go up. Do you want to give me just like a little bit about that experience?
Sure. Well, we talked about this briefly, but so I'm a service-based business. And so it's, in my experience, what I'm aware of in terms of funding is very much more targeted towards either product-based businesses or people with physical spaces. And so when I'm selling like my brain and my expertise, I don't know who would give me money to support that. So I kind of just stay away from that.
Yeah. Anybody else kind of have those, even if it's not the same kind of fear, but has anybody else ever experienced just that, like kind of counting yourself out of funding because you don't think you're going to get it, or, you know, maybe I'm just a one-person business, I don't make enough money that they would even think of me? Michelle? Yep. Okay, so I've experienced that too. And so I went on a journey, on my individual journey, to try to find funding for myself and kind of get all of the no's that I needed to get, so that I could take this to other people. Because if we are not getting the money that we need, that means we're not opening spaces. That means we're not serving as many clients as we can. That means we are entrepreneurs out here suffering, and our businesses are closing 1 and 2 years after they're opening, right? That's not good. So let me give you some things that I can offer. Let's get to the good part. I just graduated 12 students from our first Black Business Accelerator cohort. Of those 12 businesses, we had 8 that were women. And what I learned in supporting folks is that I came in and I was like, we're going to teach the technical stuff. We're going to get people like loan ready. We're going to get them like, we don't do anything else. We're going to do accounting. We're going to do business plans. We are going to get people like the technical skills that they need to apply for these loans and to get this money so that they can run their businesses the way that they want to run their businesses, right? But what I found was that majority of the work wasn't technical, right? We could set everybody up. We got the worksheets that say, oh, you need a 680, right? We can do that part of it, but the work was cultural, right? We had to like restructure all of the things and relearn all of the things that we thought about funding and all the barriers that we put on ourselves in trying to get funding. That was actually the barrier. So my work wasn't done after I gave them the worksheet and after I gave them the links to the Kiva loan that I'll talk about in a second. The work was like sticking with them at 10 o'clock at night when they're putting in their application, not thinking that they're ready and saying, push the button, just do it, right? And then the other piece was that we found when one person I'll give you an example. We have a lady who owns a sea moss smoothie shop called Potions. It's a beautiful place, and she wanted money for her build out. And so we hooked her up with a Kiva loan. And this is a great option for folks who are just trying to get their foot in the door. It's a 0% interest, low barrier loan. We can get up to $15,000, right? And it's super low barrier. So she got her loan and she crowdfunded it. And we had the conversation at like 11 o'clock at night. And I was like, push the button, let me push it so I can share it, or I'm going to share it for you. And there was like a process with that, and me learning like, what is the fear of telling people what you're doing, asking for money, and having shame really around that. This is a loan. These are investments. Like all these people get paid back, and still understanding or still feeling that guilt or the shame that comes around with asking for capital. And so we were learning at the same time together. So she ended up getting her loan fully funded in like 24 hours, which like never happens. Well, actually, it does happen because we claimed it, and it happens now, right? So she got her money. And then, she came back, and there was like 6 other people in class that were like, I know Kiva worked for one, but okay, we'll see if it can work for me. And so my work was really walking alongside people and helping them understand that if this person did it, I have an example now, you can do it, right? And now if you can get $15,000, that means you can get $50,000. Now you know what you can do, right? And that fear is just, that's in your mind, right? So my biggest offer is, if you are a person that supports business, or if you are a business and you have taken the leap of trying to do access funding, I feel like it is like, and you've done it, it is like almost like your responsibility. Like, if you could please do anything for me, for other businesses, is take them along with you. Tell them what you've done. Tell them the hard parts about it. Tell them about the fear of pushing the button, and then tell them how you've succeeded, even if it's a small amount, like starting with a credit card, right? That's the easiest way to get in, is getting in like a $5,000, $2,000, $1,000 credit card, because once you have one, you can get another one, and you can get everything that you have multiplies. So that's what I would carry. That's what I would ask us to carry with us, is the duty of each one, teach one, reach one, right? And then the other thing is to think about the connection between the direct connection between your funds, the how, and how it supports your why, and really having the why in mind when you're thinking about what these dollars can do for you. Can you make your business more sustainable? Can you serve your employees better? Can you be more creative about your products? Can you treat people better? Can you have a more holistic life? If you just had more resources? And when you have that kind of umph and why behind you, it makes it easier to do that kind of like get rid of those fears that we have around funding. And I know you probably want some more practical stuff. So I'm going to put in the chat, I've got a funding workshop coming up on November 4th, where literally we're just going to go over every single kind of funding and how to get it. And we'll dispel all of the scary stuff that comes with it. And you can pick which one's right for you. And it's the easiest way kind of to get in and to ask the scary and kind of embarrassing questions about funding.
Thank you so much. If you have a business bank account, you should also check with your bank, because a lot of them do very small grants. So anywhere from like $200 to $5,000, where you can just apply, and you usually hear back within a couple of weeks. I know that the amount of money that they were doing sort of went down during the pandemic, but it's worth looking into sort of whatever relationships you have. So at the beginning of the pandemic, I think GoFundMe or Square did this thing where if you set up a GoFundMe and you got $500, then they would also give you $500. So make sure that you're utilizing those opportunities where you do already have business relationships. I love what you talked about with shame, because I remember I got laid off. My whole department got laid off about 11 years ago, and I had literally just found out that I was pregnant, bought a car, got laid off. Like, it was like the worst week. And I remember I didn't go on unemployment because I had so much pride in not having, like, not needing to utilize those things. And I had a friend who was like, you literally pay for that. Like, you pay for that, like, through your paychecks. Why are you not utilizing this resource that's there for you? And I feel like that's so common, especially among women, where we're just conditioned really throughout our whole lives that we shouldn't ask for help, that we don't need help, that if we need help, that we're not like the best version of ourselves, when in reality, like, this all loops back to community, right? Like, we're all better when we're in community. So why do we resist so hard the idea that, like, we can ask for help? I have a friend who owns a business, and she recently did like a business shower, where there was this website where she said, like, these are the things that I need for my business. I'm not having babies. Like, let's do a business shower. And I think she was looking for about, $10,000 worth of products and services, like 5,000 to rebuild her website and things like that. And I love, that push towards, let's figure out how to get you funding, these traditional resources, but these new ones like Kiva and things like that. But I just want to, like, bright line what Kiara said about, you really have to resist that feeling that, like, you don't get to ask for help, or that even if it's there for you, that somehow it's not yours to take. It's yours to take. Like, take it. If somebody's offering you help or money, like, utilize that, because it benefits your business. So thank you for that. The next person that we're going to hear from is actually one of the few people speaking today who I haven't had the pleasure of meeting in person yet, but I'm hoping that changes. Mary Big Bull Lewis is the founder of Wenatchee Wear, which is a super cool clothing and, like, hat line based in Wenatchee. It's super funky, and they've got some really cool designs. So if you're looking to add some sustainable fashion to your closet, I would definitely check it out. She's also the chair of the Indigenous Roots and Reparation Foundation, which we'll talk about again a little bit at the end of today. So I'm going to turn it over now to Mary Big Bull Lewis.
Thank you, Allison. So Tilhust, Ishtikanchut, Oki, Niraniku. Hello, my name is Mary Big Bull Lewis. I'm an Indigenous entrepreneur located here in Wenatchee, Washington. I am an enrolled member of the Colville Confederated Tribes of the Wenatchee, Moses, and Eniat bands, and a descendant of the Blackfoot tribe. I was born and raised here in Wenatchee, and let's see, where do I start? So I co-own two businesses with my husband. Our first one we launched in 2013, which is called Our Digital Design. It's a graphic design business. We specialize in design for print, so brand development, logo designs, websites, vehicle graphics, any print materials that are needed, trade show graphics. And then throughout the years, we've discussed launching a clothing brand, and we didn't know what we wanted it to be, but we are both very passionate about the outdoors. And this was during a time in my life where I was finding who I was as a person and finding things that had been missing my entire life, reconnecting with my culture, and essentially finding my purpose. And so going through those things and being introduced to some cultural teachings, I realized that, I'm here on the homelands with a purpose, and I'm here to continue to be present. Growing up in a primarily white community, it's easy to blend in and not be your authentic self. And throughout history's forced assimilation with Native Americans and the oppression of our culture is unfortunately not something that's discussed often or amplified in the areas. So the Wenatchee band and Wenatchee tribe, our original name is the Pasquosa. The Wenatchee name was given to us during the treaty days, and our reservation was scheduled to be kind of marked by the government, and they failed to do so, which ended up, we're no longer a federally recognized tribe. So us, along with 11 other tribes, are under the governance of the Colville Confederated Tribes. So the inner workings of the sovereign nations is something that I was never taught. You know, growing up here in Wenatchee, I wasn't taught local Native American history. We learned about significant things, but we also didn't learn about the tragedies and the hardships that were faced here. And so that's kind of my purpose with Wenatchee Wear, is to create wearable art. So each of our designs, I start out hand sketching. And like I said, we have our graphic design business, so that works hand in hand with production and things. And we're able to produce those onto garments, hoodies, t-shirts, tank tops. We create hats, stickers, coffee mugs, just branded materials. And with the purchase of particular designs, we share the info cards when people purchase that so that they can continue to learn. And then with this business venture, I also wanted to find ways to give back, find ways to continue the hard work that my ancestors fought for. Our last chief was Chief Harmelt. He actually lived in Kashmir, Washington, which is about 10 minutes away from Wenatchee. And he perished in a house fire there, but he had been working towards obtaining land back and getting the treaties to be honored. And so he would travel from here to Washington, D.C., which isn't as easy as hopping on a plane like it is now. So he died trying to fight for our rights and to get our land back. And to this day, we don't have a land or any place here that's dedicated to Native Americans and Indigenous peoples. So I launched a GoFundMe as well to get the ball rolling for a land back project in 2020. And then in 2021, we've had several community members step up and offer their assistance with legal work, their expertise to help form a nonprofit. And so the goal of this is to keep it an Indigenous-led nonprofit, because it's important to have our voices at the table, have our voices making the decisions versus, you know, going through the typical white-led organizations that are here in the Valley. And so that was really important. And so I'm really proud that of the accomplishments that we've done, and that we are a nonprofit, and the name of it is the Indigenous Roots and Reparation Foundation. And our goal is to obtain a piece of land back, build a community center for Indigenous peoples, to have a safe place to come to gather in community, to teach our languages, teach our traditions, basket weaving, to have a safe place. It's much needed in our area. And the last few years with the wildfires, we've been helping with the fires on the Colville Reservation, but a lot of people are sent here, which is like 2 hours away, to the hotels, and there's no resources readily available for them. And especially difficult during the pandemic. So we have this grand idea of this community center and what it means, and having people from across Washington state and different tribes represented on our board is going to give us a better view of what we need to do to accomplish this. So yeah, I'm just really excited to do that. But my topic today is to discuss land acknowledgements and how to do that with a purpose. As we know, land acknowledgements have become somewhat of a trendy thing, but it's important to recognize that giving a land acknowledgement is not enough. It needs to be paired with a purpose. It needs to be paired with action. And so I actually have a blog on our website, and I'll share that on here with the land acknowledgement that I kind of wrote up, and just a guideline as far as what to do when writing a land acknowledgement. And the most important thing is, again, to pair that with action, whether that's showing support for an Indigenous-led project, connecting with the local tribe whose land you're on. There's also a link on our website that can direct you to Native Land, which is Indigenous Native American owned business. They're located in Canada, and they created a map of Canada and the US that shows whose unceded land you're on, what the territories are, what the language is, what the names of the tribes, and links to websites and just information. You can also download it on your phone. So if you like to go out and explore and hike, you can see whose land you're on as well. From there, you know, it's just important to understand the histories from a first perspective. And I know that's difficult because it seems like there's not a lot of information that's out there, but there is. It might be in several books or several different publications. We carry books in our store that are written by Native Americans. That's our whole purpose here. I was talking with our breakout group, letting them know that we just opened our retail store here in Wenatchee. So we moved in at the beginning of this month, and it's pretty cool to have a dedicated retail space. But we're all about, again, amplifying Indigenous businesses. So it's important to shop authentic. If you ever question if a product is appropriating, you can ask, I recommend asking the business owner, like, are you affiliated with a tribe? Because the sales of designs or products that are, say, from the Wenatchee tribe, and you're not affiliated with the tribe, and it's appropriation, it's an unethical business practice that unfortunately there's not a lot of highlighting about that, but there is an actual law that's against doing that. So we partner with wholesale Native American owned businesses, as well as have some consignment people in here as well. So people know that you can come here and buy authentic Native American products. So yeah, back to the land acknowledgements. Sorry, I'm kind of all over the place, but with land acknowledgements, you know, the Native Land app is a great resource to look into, but that also prompts you to dig a little bit deeper and find those local organizations. There's several of them. Over in the Seattle area, there's the Duwamish, the Pay Rent, if you guys are familiar with that. So they are a non-federally recognized tribe too, who are fighting to get federally recognized. They've actually applied for that, and their governing tribe denied them that. So they're still working towards becoming a federally recognized tribe. The importance of the federal recognition is just that in itself, is that you are recognized. You do have access to different funding and different things like that. So it's really important. And sometimes when I speak at events, I forget that people don't understand that in the Native American culture, like, we believe that we are the land and the land is us. So there's no difference in between that. So we need to respect the land, and the land is going to return and respect us. And if we continue down these roads of these different types of fuels and things, it's only hurting our environment and sustainability. There's a lot of things that we can do to make a change and promote that. One of the recent projects that we did with Wenatchee was with a local organization called Sustainable Wenatchee. And so we produce these shirts that are produced on All Made, which are recycled materials. So we are conscious about the products that we choose, and we look at what's made in the US, better options for printing as far as on recyclable materials. So that's important to do. Sorry, I'm trying to keep track of my time too, so I don't go over. looks like we got a few more minutes. But yeah, so the importance of the land acknowledgement and understanding the true histories is because our system has continued to oppress Native Americans throughout our history, but we've been here since time immemorial. I'm here today because of my family survived residential schools. Residential schools were primarily in Canada, but there are some here in the United States. And they would take the kids from the homes and put them in these Catholic churches and basically take the Indian out of the man was the motto. And so they would cut our hair. They would tell us to stop speaking our languages, forgetting all of our cultural teachings. And, you know, it's a really difficult thing to know that my family experienced that, because, you know, thinking like you can't keep your hair long, which our hair is a significant part of our culture, like with different communities too, that, you know, people don't touch your hair for reasons, and it's for cultural significance. So, you know, understanding and learning those things about my culture, my heritage, and my family has just given me the strength to continue to speak the truth, continue to be present, and just be proud of who I am. My grandma was my mom was adopted, so that's another kind of different things in our upbringing and understanding generational traumas, is that we have to continue to work to get over those or to understand. And a lot of families, especially the individuals that were forced into the residential schools, were never given those opportunities to do so. But there's a lot of individuals that are around my age group that are stepping up, and as I've heard and referenced, that it's a revolution, that we're here and we're not going anywhere, and we're continuing to fight for our land back. Because having that little parcel of land, which is nothing in comparison to what was supposed to be given to many tribes, is significant, because it means that having the safe place to gather, knowing that we can go there and not, you know, assimilate to the current surroundings, know that we're going to be there in community with our Native American friends, that we can be ourselves and be understood, is so important. And that's the ultimate goal of doing this. And with, you know, the Duwamish, and there's, you know, several other organizations that are doing this across the United States. And that's just so important to understand that and recognize that we can all do something, whether it's ourselves, our organizations, or our businesses, and that we all have the opportunity to change our future in a positive way by the steps that we take now. So I think, sorry, I have my timer. I think that's 15 minutes, so I'll cut it short there. But I hope that that gives you guys some prompts and some ideas. And then if you have any questions, you know, feel free to email me, or we'll have an opportunity to chat as well.
Thank you so much, Mary. I actually would love to start off the crowd questions, if that's okay, because this is something that is on my mind a lot these days, which is that some businesses do like a 10%, you know, from all of their profits to a specific charity, or they might choose one monthly where they do 10%. Other people might choose to take a specific product and donate all of the proceeds from that specific product to a nonprofit. But there's been a lot of criticism over the last couple of years that choosing organizations that are in the spotlight is actually exploitative of those groups, and that the concept of only donating a certain percentage of your profits is reflective of our kind of selfishness that we're only willing to donate if people do something for us first. And so I realized that that was like a lot of concepts kind of in one, but this is, to me, as somebody who has a really community facing business, is like constantly on my mind. How do you do this better? How do you support other organizations, whether it's a nonprofit or a mutual aid organization, through your business in a really intentional way? That's not to say that you'll never be criticized, right? Because people have different feelings about, you know, different types of fundraising. But do you have any suggestions of how, especially like businesses like mine that are quite small, where we are solopreneurs, where I'm not raising $20,000, you know, at a time for businesses, for nonprofits. Do you have any suggestions for how we can sort of wrap intentionality and into those efforts?
Yeah, for sure. And I appreciate that because, you know, there's a lot of damned if you do and damned if you don't. And there's going to be people that are, I would say, keyboard warriors that are the loudest, that are going to kind of try and bring efforts down. But ultimately, if your intentions are right, if you truly take the time to understand the organization and what their goals and purposes are and amplifying that through your business, then you can't go wrong. Change is difficult. And so people have a hard time reimagining what that means and how we can all do better. But I'll just share that we've had a tremendous support here in our valley with organizations that have hosted runs where they do donate all the proceeds to a local organization. And this year they chose Indigenous Roots and Reparation Foundation. There's a BIWAC film being produced that was primarily shot here on the Pasquosa homelands. And they're dedicating a location fee to the Indigenous Roots and Reparation land back. We have a local produce business here in town that's raising tips as well as a portion of the proceeds, because all of the produce was grown here on the homelands. And so for like 3 or 4 months, they gather donations and they're donating. And then people just giving monthly donations. So I understand how people might be saying that, oh, you're just doing this for the wrong reasons. But if you know that your heart is set in the right way, and that you truly are supporting this for the right reasons versus social media reach or gathering, you know, more audience for yourself, there's no wrong in doing it. And so I would just recommend that businesses and organizations just take the time to learn. And sometimes it's relearning, and that's okay.
One of the things I think that Drea said at the beginning was that like we can't change things unless we know like what's wrong. And I think that for me, these last like maybe 5 years or so, with like the expansion of social media and people using social media to educate other people about topics that we don't learn about in school, have been such an amazing learning experience, because you realize like so much that you don't know about our own history, about the history of the United States, the history of the land that we're on, even like the edible plants that are on your land. You know what I mean? Like all of these different things. And so to me, this is kind of an exciting period of time, at least as a white woman. Like I recognize that that's where I'm coming from, of having access, like easy access to more types of information. So I'm really thankful to social media for that. And I think that, Mary, that's how I was introduced to your work. So social media is a bitch, but it's also a really amazing resource if you use it right. And so thank you for being with us here today. And I'm going to open it up to other crowd questions. So you can either just turn your video or your mute off, video on, mute off, or pop any questions in the chat. You've got about 5 minutes.
I don't have a question. I just wanted to come on and say thank you because there's so much that I learned from what you've told us today and resources, things that I wasn't aware of at all because of things like you said, education and background and things that were available to me at the time. So I appreciate you coming on here and educating, and I will be definitely educating myself on this more.
I'll ask another question if no one has one, and then we'll move into the group so that we can talk more about this topic. Mary, do you have a specific plot of land identified that you're working to purchase, or is it still sort of in the concept phases?
I don't. I've been asked that a lot, but as I've explained, like on different things, is that this project is bigger than one person, and I just wanted to get the ball rolling. And so it's really up to our board, and then also partnering with the local tribes and organizations to come together to, once we're at that point of ready to purchase, or hopefully somebody can donate land, so then we can use the funds raised to build the community center. But definitely along the homelands, which again, the original reservation was supposed to be through Wenatchee all the way up through Lake Wenatchee. So it's a pretty wide area, but kind of my vision is to see it near water so that we can hopefully fish. Another thing about fishing is that technically the Wenatchee tribe lost our fishing rights for like 150 years due to the treaties. And so there was a advisory board that was formed in 1998, the Wenatchee Advisory Board, which consisted of tribal members, that then fought for 12 years to get our fishing rights back so that we can legally fish here on the homelands. And during that time, the Yakima also share this land too, and they actually issued like a restraining order against the Wenatchee to kind of halt us from fishing here as well. So it's, you know, it's all this this depth of legal battles that essentially, you know, kind of stands in the way of a lot of things. But with our organization, we wanted it to be separate and not tribally owned, but rather Indigenous led, so that we're not under those restrictions and things that like the tribes are with the federal government.